the Pat Mayo Experience. Back, week 3, rankings at every position. This is the debate. This is where we fudge them all up. If you want to go check out the updated versions of the rankings, because I have my rankings done right now up on dkplaybook.com. You can go find them for free up there. But if my guest talks me out of a ranking or I change it, it's hard to change the graphics once they're in the show. The DK Playbook rankings, which will get updated every single day up until kickoff on Thursday, and then again for the early game on Sunday, and then again for the later slate starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, they will all be updated there. So don't freak out. They'll be in the description of the video, of the podcast, everything. So that's where you'll find the most up-to-date rankings. Because, frankly, there's a couple guys we don't even know if they're going to play or not, so we had to make the decision. Do you put them in now? Do you put them in later? I lean towards putting them in now, and then we can adjust later on and maybe talk through that a little bit. Joining me, as he is wont to do for the Rankings debate show for like the past 20 years or something like that. I can't remember how long this show goes. My long-term memory is just scorched at this point. But it's Jake Ciely of RotoExperts.com, of Fantasy Sports Network and Fantasy Radio. What's going on, my man?
Not too much. Yeah, I think after about 1,000 or 2,000 episodes we've done together, I think that might be the first time you've used the want in a sentence.
Well, I used it properly, so I feel very good about that.
I know you did, yeah.
Sometimes being a professional broadcaster pays off. You have to learn these words.
Occasionally, until you got listeners or followers who don't know what you're talking about, and then you try to explain it to them, and they call you mean.
Yeah, see, people call you mean. I just don't go explaining it to people. I just tell them, hey, you should know.
You should be smart enough to know. Well, I don't know, Pat. Did you consider...
Yeah, well, I don't know what the schedule is for this week. I think it was Bill James who said it, because Jonah told me this one time. It's just like, don't worry about people not getting things. Because I can remember being a kid, and if I didn't get something, I would just go look it up. Now everyone has Google. They can just go Google stuff and look it up. That's much easier.
It's a lot easier. There's no excuse to not to know any better than these days. There's no point in being ignorant these days, which ignorant just means you don't know any better, but there's no reason for it.
No, see, I'm actually on the other side. I think be as ignorant as you want. That's the freedom that we have.
So is it be ignorant as well? So you can't be stupid, because then you do know better, and then we can all get mad at you.
Exactly. Then everyone feels better about themselves. So
I'm glad we broke this all down. This is interesting. This is enlightening.
How about this? How about we get into the rankings? My rankings are PPR based for season long. Jake does PPR, standard, and half-point PPR. Jake, where can they find your rankings?
RotoExperts.com, released basically Tuesday night at midnight. There you go.
I'm familiar with that site.
Yeah, you are pretty familiar with that site. You got the SEO rolling for some of us over here.
Hey, if it leads to increased traffic, then boom, my job was finished. Let's talk running backs. Number 1 in the running back rankings. He has been kind of crappy through 2 weeks. He is Lev Bell. The reason he's at number 1, because 3 people asked me, how'd you put Le'Veon Bell at number 1? He's back up to 96% market share. No one's going to touch the ball more than Le'Veon Bell. He's going to be fine. He's number 1. Number 2, Kareem Hunt is on that list. Then Melvin Gordon, Zeke Elliott, Devonta Freeman, Jay Ajayi, Shady McCoy, Ty Montgomery, Flea Market, Todd Gurley, and then Buck Allen in the London Morninger game comes in at number 10. Hot pickup, Buck Allen. If people got Buck Allen, or Javorius Allen, as he appears in the systems for all of the sites, congratulations. I think he's actually going to be quite good, especially this week, even against a tough Jags team, mainly because of his receiving prowess. That's where he's going to get his involvement. John Harbaugh came up and said, Alex Collins is going to get some touches. He might get 7 touches. Terrence West might get 9. But all they really want to do is run the ball when they're going to continue to do that, or complete high percentage passes to either A, Buck Allen, or B, Ben Watson. That's going to be about it. Do you have a problem with any of these top 10 guys? Because I don't know if you've been listening to my shows. I assume you haven't, because you do 9 hours of media a day. I think Shady's going to get hurt real soon.
I could see Shady getting hurt this season, if not sooner than later, with the way that they're using him, the way this team looks so far.
Twice. No, 1 sec. Twice in 2 games, he has gone to the sidelines with a wrist injury. He's come back in both times. Eventually, the wrist ain't looking so good no more.
No, we might be headed down a David Johnson path, where all of a sudden he's getting surgery, or he's out for 6 to 8 weeks and dislocated on top of it. I don't blame you for that. The only one I think is aggressive is the Buck Allen one, and I think it's more... again, you mentioned it. The ranks might change. My ranks are going to change all the way up until Sunday morning at 12:30. We do it all the time. But as of right now, if West is out there versus the Jacksonville's defense, which you mentioned, and then also because it's a London game, and more often than not, these games are very hard to predict, especially from the running. It seems like the running side of things is like the one constant, so I will say that's a positive. But the Jacksonville defense and being London and being Terrence West in the mix, I wouldn't be so aggressive. But if West is out or limited, I love the ranking.
I think even if West is in, I'm okay with it because of the floor that I think that Allen presents in PPR formats. And the one thing that I noticed with the Jags D last week, they were great. Also, they make the first tackle every single time, which is just fantastic, except for when they're trying to tackle Mariota. Or towards the end of that game, they just got worn out. Like, so many plays got run against them. They ran the ball so much that Derrick Henry was able to just pound through everything. And just they had to give up something towards the end. And I can see the same thing happening with the Ravens. Like, they're going to run the ball like 45 times in this game.
I can see it, but there's 5 names you haven't mentioned yet that I would put in front of him. So, I mean, looking at my rankings right now, I don't have them that much. I have them 17, so that's 7 spots off from you, but it's not a huge gap. I'm not as comfortable as you are with that spot.
I mean, I like to roll the dice. Also, I'm not as accurate as you are, so that probably makes a lot of sense. Rankings 11 to 20, I have Carlos Hyde at 11, Dalvin Cook at 12, C.J. Anderson at 13, Fournette 14, Tarek Cohen at 15, Sista Christian McCaffrey 16, Isaiah Crowell 17, Jaquiz Rogers 18, Tevin Coleman that is, at number 19, and Mike Gillislee against the Texans at number 20. Now, in terms of the injury report, I'm acting like DeMarco Murray is going to play. If he is not playing, Derrick Henry will move much higher up this list, although it is a tougher matchup against the Seahawks, even if he gets all the goal line touches and he gets the bulk of the share. If DeMarco Murray's touching the ball like 15 times or 12 times in that game, that just could throw a wrench into the upside against a tougher defense. That's why Derrick Henry does not get included inside the top 20. Should he be out, that's why you go back and check the updated rankings. Derrick Henry might move up. So this is the range where people just start having some issues with some of the guys. I'm going to believe on Christian McCaffrey, especially against the Saints, because I think the way to beat the Saints is just to pass all over them. If he can get himself more involved in the passing game, especially now that Cam Newton has lost Greg Olsen. He ain't thrown to Ed Dixon, who can't catch. So, someone has to get the ball to them. I think Jonathan Stewart's a decent play as well. But I think McCaffrey, because of the catches, is going to get on track here. And I don't know if I buy. The big Twitter pile on today was how crappy Christian McCaffrey is between the tackles. No, he hasn't looked the greatest so far, but I wouldn't say that he's bad.
No, he's not at all, and I think this will be the coming out game because we have heard Cam Newton said that he's not been happy with his performance so far. We've seen the fact that he's been reluctant. I don't know if it's the team finally getting to him or he's not 100%, but he's been reluctant to be himself and run the ball as much as I think it's the week where they say, you know what, we've scored 32 points in 2 games. Let's get things rolling. Let's go back to Cam being Cam. Let's get Christian McCaffrey, the guy who was juking Luke Kuechly out of his shoes in the preseason training camp and all that type of stuff. Let's get him out there because maybe the teammates realize how good he is and everybody else can see how good he is. So I'm with you. It's the Saints matchup here. It's great. It's funny, when I was mentioning the Buck Allen, you almost went in order. I have Hyde, McCaffrey, Cook, C.J. Anderson, Crowell, Fournette, and Tarek Cohen, and then Buck Allen. So all those guys are pretty much almost in the same spot as yours.
So I think I know that there's one name that you didn't mention there, and I assume that you have him a lot higher than I do, and that would be your ex-boyfriend, C.J. Anderson. It's like he lost 20 pounds, and now you're all over him again.
I said this in the preseason. I said, look, I broke up with him early last year, and all of these things started progressing through the preseason. He was healthy. Devontae Booker hit the injury list himself, and then Jamal Charles was possibly not even going to make the team, but that obviously changed. But as things were progressing, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to dial him up on the phone and mend the fences and get back. The best way I put it is that it's like we're both 40 years old and we haven't got married yet. And it's just like, you know what? Let's get hitched. We'll get back.
Oh, no. It's nothing like that because you had vitriol for poor C.J. Anderson. It's like C.J. Anderson just discovered CrossFit all of a sudden. Now walking around a size 0, looking sharp, got a nice tan on the go, and you're just like, oh, man, what am I doing now? I can't attract that sort of thing. I need to get back into the mix with C.J. Anderson. That's what you're doing.
That's a better way to put it. I was kind of hoping a little bit for the love was coming my way, but you're right.
You scorned poor CJA. This is all on you. This is your fault.
It is true. Hey, look, we mended fences. We're back together again. I'm trying to find out if they have a Funko Pop with CJ Anderson.
All right, so Jake's on the same level with CJA. He's shooting over like a 1 a.m. text just being like, you up? Question mark, potentially smiley face, question mark again. And if CJA doesn't respond in like 45 seconds, maybe just another nudge or like a winky emojicon and see what happens. That's the level you're at. But
I may or may not have slid into some DMs. We'll put it that way.
Perfect. So I have them a bit lower just because I think that Buffalo's defense isn't all that bad. They've been limiting running backs pretty well through 2 weeks. Now maybe... I actually think that Carolina's run game could be on par with Denver's run game. I know it hasn't looked that way so far, but I think that Buffalo's defense can slow down C.J. Anderson enough that some of these more higher volume reception guys will present a greater floor than C.J. Anderson will this week if it is a tough matchup. He has a higher upside than maybe some of these guys. I do think that, but I'm always someone who kind of plays for floor plus minimal upside when it gets to this range. So you like C.J. Anderson. Where do you have him ranked?
Actually, I see Anderson 13th.
Oh, okay, so it's not even all that much.
No, it's not. I like him. He's fringe RB1, and like you said, the only reason he's not in the RB1 territory, because I honestly think as long as he's healthy, the way he's looked so far, the way that the offense is clicking, how good Trevor Siemian's playing ball out there, playing really smart ball, I don't think he's going to keep up this touchdown rate, but that's actually why I think it helps C.J. Anderson a little bit, because he'll get a few more touches than Siemian throwing the ball in the red zone. But as you mentioned, the matchups, okay, not great. I think a lot of people are going to see it and say, oh, the Bills are terrible. This is C.J. Anderson, top 5 running back, and you made all the points of why you have to consider it. He's more of a fringe RB1 this week.
Is Todd Gurley like a thing again? Because I'm not completely sold. Although he did hurdle 2 people, and that makes highlights, so it looks like he's back. But I don't know. I do like the usage. That's why he's inside my top 10, and I think that's sort of the theme inside my top 10. It's usage. Give me that volume. Give me that guaranteed volume, and I'm fine with it.
Yep, boom, baby. That's all it's all about. Look, we've got basically what we've seen for 2 years. We had one great season and one terrible season. Not terrible, but terrible for his standards after his rookie year. And then we had week 1, which was not good, and then week 2 he comes out like gangbusters. So now we're looking for the rubber week. We had the rubber season coming this year, and now we need the rubber week. So I'm with you, but the best part about it is you talked about it. It's the volume. So even if he averages 3 yards a carry for the rest of the season, it doesn't matter as much as most running backs because he's getting 20, 25 touches a game because we finally got rid of Jeff Fisher and somebody now, Sean McVay, is using him in the passing game. And that's where it's really so appealing because now you're adding 4 to 5 catches per game. It's going to be hard for him not to be an RB1 even if he struggles on the per-touch basis.
What if I was to tell you that someone could average 8 receptions per game out of the backfield and his name would be Tyreek Cohen? I should have learned his
Tariq.
Tariq.
I actually looked it up. I found a video of his mom talking about him to make sure. It is Tariq.
All right, so it is Tariq. I really wish his name was Tarek. Like I mentioned before.
Well, that's how he spells it.
It is how he spells it, and he could double as a Star Trek extra.
That's true.
But he has 21 targets through 2 games. The next closest running back has 14. He's a legitimate PPR sensation.
He is. I have him at 15 in PPR, and that's with Jordan Howard playing a limited game this week. So if Jordan Howard's completely out, and you look down that roster at their other running back options, now Tariq Cohen, look, now you got me saying it.
I know.
Tariq Cohen is not going to handle the ball 25 times per game because he's basically Darren Sproles, and you're going to get the man killed if you try to do that. But you're talking about a bigger share possibly in the running game and maybe even seeing double-digit targets in a single game. So I have no problem. I'm with you. What did you have him, 13?
I have him at number 15. I have Jordan Howard in my rankings, too, with the shoulder problem. I have him at number 32, and even that feels high.
Yeah, I actually have him 29. So I'm with you, and it doesn't even feel that great.
So you and I were both big supporters of Jordan Howard coming into the season, but I think I might have to audible off that. He's looking kind of busty.
Yeah, well, I don't want to audible off him and the talent. It's the fact that the health. And for John Fox doing what John Fox does, I went the other way. I was wrong. I'll admit it to everybody, but I went the other way thinking John Fox was just screwing around with all of us, making sure he was healthy and loving to do what he does and screw around with the injury report. Well, he was doing that, but he was doing it for the fact that he wasn't 100%, that being Jordan Howard. And we saw it. And the thing that worries me about it and why I would call it an audible is because Jordan Howard runs between the tackles well. Jordan Howard was better than Tevin Coleman in that, coming out of the same school. And that was why I was so fond of him even last year. That's his job, and that's his role. So if the shoulder's not 100% and he's taking that kind of punishment every week, I'd rather him sit out the next 2 games, get him back to 100%, be a fine timeshare similar to – you can kind of look at it last year and say he's DeMarco Murray and Terry Cohen's Derrick Henry, but the roles are reversed. But still that kind of shared usage. So I still think he's an RB1 if he's healthy, But is he going to be healthy is the biggest problem.
I don't even think that if he's going to be in a split with Cohen, and Cohen is the one who is getting all the receptions, because that's been the big thing with Jordan Howard. Like, he dropped the touchdown week 1 that probably could have won the game, and then he got one target last week. Botched it.
Hold on. To be fair, that was a bad pass, and 2, you're telling me you wouldn't look over your shoulder with that linebacker charging down, or I think it was safety or whatever it was, charging down on you like that when you have to crunch over at the goal line to catch the ball?
If you're asking me if I would, of course I would. I'm sitting in a room by myself, and I'm terrified someone might come in.
I'm just saying, I'm giving him a little bit of a pass for dropping that one.
Sure, but then he comes back the next week, gets one target, and then drops that one too. And we saw him last year, and sort of the knock on him coming in was that he is having these drop problems. Like, I took him in the first round of one of my leagues, or the second round of one of my leagues. And, like, I don't know what to do with him. I'm trying to trade him and, like, trying to get value for him, but no one wants him. Like, I'm kind of stuck with him at this point, and it sucks because when you have a pick like that, and I think that one thing that fantasy owners get into a lot of trouble doing is, and I've been hearing this with a lot of people being like, because I think that buying AJ Green is a really smart move. And some people are, there's the people out there being like, I can't trade you AJ Green for that. He was my first round pick. And people get attached to that. Now, I'm not attached to Jordan Howard in any way. I'm not going to cut him because I do realize that there's talent there. And, he could walk back into this role, one tweak from Cohen, and boom, Jordan Howard's getting 25 touches again. Everything is perfect in the world of Pat Mayo's fantasy team and for all Jordan Howard owners. But I don't know. Like, if you were to trade him right now, I would still want value, not necessarily where I took him, but on someone that I thought was going to be good. But do you think that's even possible?
I think it is. I think it really depends on what happens this week, unfortunately. Like, I would try today, but I don't think you're going to get proper value unless we get reports about his injury. And I gotta be honest, if he's held out this week, I would actually prefer that because, as you know, people always get excited about players right before they come back. So if we get he's held out this week and then he's back at practice on Tuesday as early as next week and things are going well, people are going to get excited again, and that would be a good time to trade him. But to your point, yes, we say this all the time. Once the draft is over and the season starts, it doesn't matter what you paid in auction. It doesn't matter what you paid in Snake. It doesn't matter what you paid anymore. And I'm looking at Howard. Maybe you can go to somebody who has running back depth and offer to them and say, hey, you can stash him. I can't afford to. Go for maybe Isaiah Crowell, who's also struggling, or I don't want to go that low, but like an Amir Abdullah, maybe somebody else. But that's the problem. Like, maybe you can still buy low on Joe Mixon before he breaks out this week.
I mean, you would trade Jordan Howard for Joe Mixon?
I would in a heartbeat.
What, really?
Yep.
I don't know, man.
I'm a huge fan of Joe Mixon.
I know you're a huge fan, but like I get that they use him at the end of week 2 in that Thursday nighter, but like there's still 2 other running backs there, and they seem very content with using them. Plus, that offense is terrible.
Well, let's remember a couple things here. Is one, Jeremy Hill's he's done. Somebody needs to realize
listen. He could be done or not done. He's still on the field for like 20% of their snaps.
He was. Look, Bill Lazor, for everybody that wants to trash him, because everybody's like, oh, look at what he did to Lamar Miller. You know what my tweet was right after that?
What?
Oh, the guy he made the RB9 and RB6 those 2 years in a row, because you know what? He knew what we didn't know. Well, actually, some of us did, and we're saying at the time still, but to this day is everybody wanted to bang on the table and say, give Lamar Miller more touches, give Lamar Miller more touches. Well, what are we seeing last year and this year? That he can't handle more touches. He's not a workhorse. Bill Lazor can use a running back very well in what his role is. And if you just give Joe Mixon that workload, which is only about 15 to 18 touches per game, he's going to be that kind of running back where he can be an RB1. So, yes, I think I put the over-under at week 4 at the beginning of the season for him to take over. I would, because he's healthy. Jordan Howard's not.
All right, so let's play this for a second. Would you trade Jordan Howard for Carlos Hyde? Yes.
Yes.
Carlos Hyde, or would you go Howard or Dalvin Cook?
Cook, absolutely.
C.J. Anderson?
Yes.
Leonard Fournette?
Absolutely.
Tarek Cohen?
Not in standard.
Tariq Cohen. I did it again now.
See? Tariq Cohen.
Not in standard.
Maybe I don't like it in PPR either. I think they're basically selling low and buying high.
I think Cohen's legit for PPR leagues. In standard, I wouldn't do it, but in PPR leagues, I just think that his floor is so good every week, just based off receptions alone, that anything else that he does is just gravy.
Don't you think he's Darren Sproles?
He could be, but they're going to use him all the time. And listen, Darren Sproles is playing like 80% of the snaps for the Eagles
I know,
right now.
But I just this is why I just wanted to bring it up for correlation purposes. Is Darren Sproles that one season he played with LaShawn McCoy with Philadelphia that year? was basically what I expect to be the usage this year for Tariq Cohen. And the fact is, LaShawn McCoy still ran for 1,300 yards that year. Didn't do a lot in the passing game, but that's because Sproles was doing everything. Sproles was RB31 in standard and RB24 in PPR, which is great, and I definitely think Cohen could do that. But he did have 3 or 4 games, even in PPR, where he had less than 6 points. So that's all I'm saying is that's why I'm a little hesitant on Cohen, because I think there will be 3 or 4 games where you're disappointed with Cohen in your lineup.
See, I don't necessarily think so. I mean, we've already had 2 disappointing games from Howard, so he has a lot to catch up to in that sense. But Philly was good that year. Philly was winning games that year. The Bears ain't winning games. Like, they're going to be behind. They're going to have to throw. And if they have to throw, he's going to be on the field.
That's before Mitch Trubisky is going to to come in and save the world.
Yeah, he's the savior. John Fox is not turning to him. If he was going to turn to him, he would have done it already.
You know what? I'll put a bet on that one too. I say by week 9.
Week 9? I'll take the over of week 9.
Okay.
Just like Joe Mixon being super fantasy relevant. I'll give that to like week 8. But like, here's the big thing with Mixon. And this is what we don't know yet because the Bengals have been so pitiful through 2 weeks. Once they get inside the 5-yard line, who touches the ball? We don't know.
That's a fair question. I definitely think and have seen and believe. He's the most talented running back in this draft.
I think that's going to be Hill.
See, and I said that's what I was going to say. Is I know Mixon can do it, and I know that he can handle that because he can do everything. But to your point, I don't know if that's guaranteed to happen. So that's my only concern. Like I really do think Lazor coming in and with this whole change and them needing to get back on track and the offense looking piss poor the first 2 weeks, that we will see now more of Joe Mixon. To your point, buy low on AJ Green. If Eifert was healthy, to buy low on him, and even Andy Dalton in deeper leagues, or if you need quarterback help for the future, just to stash. So I think everything is going to change. That is my only concern with what you just brought up, is if they are inside the 5-yard line, do they just go to Jeremy Hill because they know that he can at least handle that?
Rankings 21 to 30. Derrick Henry is number 21, assuming DeMarco Murray plays. I still like him a bit. Marshawn Lynch at 22. Chris Thompson at 23. Now, these rankings do not have Rob Kelly in them. He may or may not play. We don't know that yet. But this is factoring in the fact that Rob Kelly would be absent this week. Again, if he comes back and plays, then check the rankings. They'll be updated. But Chris Thompson's number 23. Lamar Miller 24. Samaje Perine. I finally learned how to say it properly. Now that he's a real pickup, I screwed it up on Monday's show, but here we are. He's 25. Chris Carson, 26. Darren Sproles, 27. Amir Abdullah, 28. James White, 29. Then DeMarco Murray at number 30. Let's talk Chris Carson for a second. Do you have complete faith that he is going to be the guy in Seattle?
I have faith that he's going to be the guy, but for what that means, I don't have complete faith. And is it 50% of the workload every single week? Is it 30% one week because Eddie Lacy's active and they use him at their goal line, even though he's been looking terrible so far? So I just don't know what the usage is going to be consistently yet. I mean, we do see one really good week. He looked good in the preseason. He's running more powerful than he did in college. That was the biggest thing. If you watch his college tapes, it's exceptionally inconsistent. So as of today, yeah. But the fact is, this is the same thing. C.J. Prosise is not going to lose his role as the pass-catching running back.
And again, offensive. But the thing that I want to throw to you about Chris Carson is the same thing I'll throw to you about Joe Mixon. When Seattle's inside the 5-yard line, does Carson get those carries for sure? We don't know that.
And that's what I was bringing up with the Eddie Lacy thing. So 100%. And that, honestly, inside the 5-yard line, doesn't even matter because that offensive line can't block for you-know-what.
Yeah, and where these are, he would be higher for me in a standard ranking, but where this is PPR, just I don't see him catching the ball all that often.
Oh, no, absolutely. I have him for 1.5 catches this week.
That seems high. By a half, by a hook. Let's go. I have Thompson over Perine right now because this is PPR and based on the opponent. I don't think the Raiders' defense is all that good, but I know their offense can score, so I project Washington game script-wise to be passing a lot, and if they're passing a lot, I would expect to see Thompson on the field more than Perine.
And they've actually been somewhat solid against the running backs in the first 2 weeks, but still susceptible to pass catching and passes in general. And this is a pass-first offense. That's not going to change for the Redskins, especially if Kelly's out. Yes, Perine got a lot of touches last week, but he was kind of mediocre in those touches. And people could say, oh, well, it's the Rams. Well, then what's the excuse for the fact that Rob Kelly was running all over them before he got hurt? So I think you're right. I have Thompson ranked ahead of him as well. And to be honest with you, I think in the projections they were back-to-back in non-PPR. So I like Thompson a lot this week.
31 to 40, I go Gore, Howard, Jay Stu, Theo Riddick, who I'm thinking about bumping up. He's someone who might find his way up the rankings because they're playing Atlanta. Atlanta reeks against pass-catching running backs. Mm-hmm. I forgot to factor that in when I was doing the rank. So, now I'm remembering. This is why we talk it through. Alvin Kamara, the top of the Saints running backs. Hi-ho, Duke Johnson coming off his great catch. 36, Paul Perkins, 37, Andre Ellington, 38, Thomas Rawls, 39, Matt Forte. I don't want to start anyone below this. Paul Perkins, if I'm starting Paul Perkins, man, my team is hurting.
Well, yeah, that's actually one of the things I was going to say is Paul Perkins should be even lower than that, honestly. And then the second thing was, yes, that was the one name I was waiting for you to get to, because at number 20 is where I have Theo Riddick this week, because the Atlanta Falcons are headed down the exact same road they headed down last year, which last year was giving up the most receptions, the most receiving yards, and the most receiving touchdowns to running backs over the entire year. Same thing happening all over again. We saw what Ty Montgomery just did last week, and we saw what happened the week before against the Falcons. So fire him up. Theo Riddick is a top 20 play.
I don't know if I don't think I'm going to move him up that highly, but I will bump him up. I'm probably going to bump Perkins down because he's just garbage. Vereen is the one Giants running back that you should probably be playing.
I have him higher.
PPR leagues. Yeah, I'm going to have to. Now that I'm looking at it on the screen right now, I have Vereen at 41. I'm going to move him up into the 30s and move Perkins down. I'll make a little note of that right now. Vereen down, up.
Who did you have at 22, 23, 24, and 25 again?
Lynch, Thompson, Miller, and P. Ryan.
I would at least move Riddick ahead of P. Ryan and Miller.
I don't know, man. You were a part of this group, too, giving yourself like the big back pat when Deontay Thompson had one good drive.
Deontay Thompson?
Yeah.
Oh, Deontay Foreman.
Deontay Foreman. I'm looking at all the names at once. Yeah, Deontay Foreman comes in, looks good. Granted, I'll give you that. But everyone on Twitter just, I told you he'd be the best. He had like 40 yards. Get over yourself.
Two things.
You're not starting him.
No. Two things. First of all, it wasn't a backpack. I just said this is the concerns that we had as soon as they were drafted. If you can sell Lamar Miller, please still do so. That was my point. And then second of all, I will agree with you on that is all I do. So this is going to sound very backpat-ish, but to be honest with you, I was on Deontay Foreman. You know this from day one when they drafted, and we even talked about this on a show as soon as the draft happened. But nobody else was like this excited about it except for maybe Jason Braddock. And all of a sudden, as you said, Twitter was ablaze with, we said this about Foreman. No, you didn't. There was about 5 of us saying it.
And there was nothing to say. He had like 3 good runs.
No, but it was the fact that he looked a lot better than Lamar Miller did, a lot better, and especially in the short yardage. This is the biggest thing. He's not taking Lamar Miller's job away from him. This is the same thing I said after the draft. You know this. Lamar Miller, the biggest concern I had with him and why he was low in my preseason rankings of Foreman was higher than everybody else is because I was scared of a 50-50 split. Lamar Miller, going back to the days when he was having about 15 touches per game, used mostly in the passing game, and Foreman being the between the tackles, early down, short yardage goal line. And if that starts to happen, which last week looks like it's headed that direction, he's going to lose touchdown opportunity, which he was never a huge touchdown guy to begin with. And now you're going to lose some touches on early downs. And that's always been my biggest concern.
Fortunately, against the Patriots, they're going to be passing all the time, so Miller should just be in the game. That's why I like him a lot more this week.
Yep.
I noticed that when the game was happening, I was just like, get over here.
Foreman's in my 50s in PPR.
Listen, it was just people were so excited about Foreman because of like a solid 3 minutes of action.
Hey, I've been excited about things for a solid 3 minutes of action.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyone else on this list you want to talk about? I don't want to talk about Bilal Powell because it just makes me sad, but like I'm not dropping him yet because
neither am I. Where'd you have him? I have at 32.
I have him at 49.
Oh, I still have a little bit more hope just because maybe I'm stupid, but I think it's a decent matchup this week.
I think it's a decent matchup too, but they're using Forte all the time. Lizzie McGuire's coming in the game. Like, it's no good.
I got to be honest with you. That's the one where, like, Elijah McGuire, if you're looking for, like, this Tariq Cohen guy who's similar to that, if they finally just give up for the Jets and say maybe they get rid of Forte, maybe he just decides to retire in the middle of the season, or they stop going to Bilal Powell, or Bilal Powell's had injury concerns in the past as well, so I think McGuire deep leagues. That's that guy that, hey, maybe he's Cohen.
Wide receivers. I said we wouldn't spend 40 minutes on running backs, and we only spent 30, so we're making time here this week.
We're improving.
Number 1, Antonio Brown still comes in the rankings, although the Steelers' offense has looked out of sorts through 2 weeks. I think that eventually they'll get on the right page. Ben doesn't look like Ben. Maybe a few more reps, and he'll look a little bit better.
Julio, but did you know it's on the road?
I did. I had heard it is on the road. It's weird because I really like Bell. Obviously, I have him at number 1 at running back. I have Brown number 1 at receiver. But even in games where Ben sucks, like those two generally still do well.
And that's the best part about him is you don't need Ben to be good or bad. It's just they do what they're going to do.
Exactly. So he's at number 1. Then I go Julio Jones, AJ Green. Yes, I do know that he hasn't been great through 2 games. Thank you. I know that Dalton has not been good through 2 games. Thanks. I still have him at number 3. This is a make or break week for him, I think. But anytime that a guy goes out, superstar receivers have a great track record of going to the media, calling out wanting more targets, and then getting like 20 the next game. It always happens.
Yeah, it's 100%. You know what the thing is I have AJ Green at number 3 too. I'm right there with you. It's the change of offensive coordinator. It's the stink that he made, and he's a superstar diva wide receiver. And you're right. This is. I know we're buying into a lot of narratives here, but they're there for a reason.
How about this? I buy into the narrative that AJ Green is awesome. The only positive play that the Bengals ran on Thursday night was throwing jump balls to AJ Green in triple coverage, and yet he was coming down with the ball.
And they were treating him like Calvin Johnson, and it was working.
Yeah, so maybe just do that more often. If they do that against the Packers, he's coming down with the ball again.
You know, it's funny I said that because I was watching last night's the Monday night game with the Giants, and I said Eli Manning should just throw up ducks every single because that's the only time he does anything good.
Well, I mean, that's how Sterling Shepard got his, like, 1 fantasy point of the game. Was on that, like, weird duck throw. It just landed right in his hands.
Yep. I'm telling you, that's all he should do. He just get creamed and throw up ducks every single play, and the Giants would be 16-0.
So AJ Green, number 3, Evans 4, Mike Thomas, I'm not worried, number 5, Keenan Allen 6, Crabtree 7, Jordy Nelson 8, Tyreek Hill number 9, and Kelvin Benjamin number 10 without any Greg Olsen around. You got a problem with anyone in the top 10?
No, I thought I was going to have to bring up Kelvin Benjamin. I'm with you on this one.
And I'm someone who usually hates Kelvin Benjamin, but this is the Saints. There's no Greg Olsen. It seems like a really good spot. Jordy's 50-50 to play as of the last time I checked. There's no new update on Jordy, is there?
No, there's not. I'm actually surprised he's even 50-50 because they said it wasn't a bone bruise. They said it wasn't a strain. It was just he got knocked in the leg. So I was just thinking a super bad Charlie horse, but maybe it's kind of like, you remember that Brett Favre picture we got years back of that black and blue hip, knee, leg, whatever the hell it was area, or in his penis too. That maybe that's what we're looking at here is he just really hurts.
Yeah, so the thing is, I don't think they're going to run him out there if he is truly hurt. So if he's playing, I'm playing him. If not...
You mean like the Giants and Odell Beckham?
Yeah, that was just bizarre. But with Jordy, if he's playing, I'm going to play him. I think he's going to be fine, and the matchup says, I should probably end up doing that. If not, Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams and Geronimo Allison will all move up in the rankings. So don't worry. Just check back, dkplaybook.com. All be updated. 11-20, Golden Tate, Brandon Cooks, Amari Cooper, Doug Baldwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Des Bryant, Alshon Jeffrey, Demarius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and then Odell Beckham Jr. I assume he's going to be healthier this week than he was last week, but he didn't look quite 100%. He looked around like 50%.
Yeah, I might give him a little bit more than that, but the biggest thing, too, is he wasn't on the field the entire time. They kept pulling him in and out of the game, and it's obvious that and if you watch him, too, I will say this. Watching him, you saw he looked tentative in his explosiveness. Like, he looked like he was trying to make sure that he didn't cut off his ankle too hard and, possibly roll it or aggravate the injury. And it looks and sounds like it's been a high ankle sprain this entire time, which is something that can linger especially if you mess it up again. So the good news is he came out without aggravating it. The bad news is, as you said, there's a reason we have him down there. I have him in the teens, is he's down this low because of the concern that brings, is he's not even going to see a full complement of snaps. Did I miss him, or did you say Larry Fitzgerald?
No.
Really?
No. Stupid Larry Fitzgerald cost me all the monies on DraftKings last week.
Okay, but you don't think Carson Palmer in this matchup is going to go back to, hey, I just spent a whole game going to Jaron Brown and he only caught 4 of my passes. Maybe I should go to the guy that's 10 times better than him?
No, they're going to go to J.J. Nelson. He's number 21 in the rankings, followed by Terrell Pryor, Devontae Parker, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Rashard Higgins, Martavis Bryant, Chris Hogan, Adam Thielen. Larry Fitzgerald comes in at... There's a chance I forgot to rank him.
That would be terrific.
No, he's 34.
Oh, okay.
I had to control F on the page.
That's way low.
Listen, I'm not feeling it, man. Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
The first thing I noticed when I looked at the spreads this week is that Dallas is only a 3.5 point favorite against Arizona. I almost took my entire bankroll and put it all on Dallas. Now, I paused for a sec because I need to talk to a few more people to make sure this line isn't a trap. But what is Arizona doing to make you think that they're any good?
Not much, but I know that Carson Palmer's still going to throw for 300 yards like he normally does against poor defenses, and the Dallas Cowboys have the biggest thing is not only do they have a poor secondary, their worst corner is their slot corner, which is not surprising when you don't have depth. Usually that's what happens, and that's where Larry Fitzgerald comes out of it. And I go back to, you're right, J.J. Nelson's going to get his. I am a big fan of J.J. Nelson. I was really high on him last week, and still not high enough on him last week once we got the announcement that John Brown was out. But I'm looking at Larry Fitzgerald and the fact that Jaron Brown did nothing with double-digit targets, only 4 catches.
I mean, it's not that he didn't do anything. It's just Carson Palmer sucks.
But Larry Fitzgerald can make up. You're telling me, let me ask you, you always ask the questions. Let me ask you this one. If Larry Fitzgerald sees double-digit targets, you don't think he finishes top 25?
Yes, but I don't think he gets double-digit targets.
Oh, well, see, that's where we differ.
Listen, I'm willing to be wrong on Larry Fitzgerald this week, and frankly, I don't think he possesses the upside right now in this offense at his age with Carson Palmer being the nut low. I'm willing to rank him down. I'm willing to let Larry Fitzgerald beat me this week.
Hey, that's fair. I will say this. You were running through that list, and you said one name. That that little meme of that kid doing the fist with that little face? He's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like that.
Yeah, I know the meme, and I know the name. It's Rashard Higgins.
Thank you. As soon as you said that name, that's what popped into my mind. I just love that you have him there.
Why would I mean? If there's one thing Kaiser has shown through 2 games is that he has one guy that he likes to throw to, and he just throws to him every single time. It was Corey Coleman, then he broke his hand, and once he left the game, it was Rashard Higgins. I don't expect that to change.
Well, and there's a couple things here. Is one part of that is because Kenny Britt's off lounge on the sideline, cashing his paycheck and not caring what's going on. And then 2, as you know this as well, is something else I said, DeShone Kizer is not good at throwing the deep ball, overthrew a ton of wide receivers in college at Notre Dame, is not great with his decision-making. He needs to make the quicker throws over the middle of the field where Corey Coleman was doing work, and it's not surprising. Well, guess what? Rashard Higgins, not quite as good as Corey Coleman at the separation over the middle of the field, but 6'1", 200 pounds, good at separating, good at getting open, very smart player, very good hands, and what does that fill the spot of? That void left by Corey Coleman. I'm with you. I said he's a must-add. I was willing to go. I said this in the waiver wire column. I'm willing to go in active, aggressive, smart owner leagues. I'm willing to go 25% on the waiver wire because he should be the number 1 wide receiver for the Browns going forward.
It's funny when you talk about the fab bids. That's what I used to put fab bids into my column, and then I had to stop doing it because each league is so different that yep. I was actually running people out of money in fab, being like, I was basing it off like you and I would play in the flex league together. Like, what am I going to have to bid on this guy in order to get him?
Right.
And that's what I was putting down as the fab thing. But like, I play in a bunch of different leagues right now. I'm helping my wife with her team, and like, she does fab bidding. I was like, if you put in $0 on Rashard Higgins, you're going to get him because no one knows who he is. So like, you really need to know your league. And I felt uncomfortable telling people, hey, spend $17 on him when you really had to spend 1 because you know your league better than I do.
You're 100% right, and I was thinking about yanking him for the same reason because I've already got people on Twitter asking about that type of stuff. And then the other factor you have to put into it is by week 6, 15% means a hell of a lot different to somebody else with 15% if they're an aggressive league and everybody only has $40 left versus everybody has $70 left. You're going to get a big difference on what 15% is.
No, absolutely. So there's 2 ways you can really manage your fab dollars. One, you just go all in on someone, and I mean, frankly, there hasn't really been anyone like that yet. Cohen and Allen are probably the 2. Some people are doing that with Carson this week. And I think that in the weeks where you see that stuff happening, the secondary and tertiary guys end up going for cheaper than you'd expect. So that would be my kind of thought process on the strategy of fab. The actual dollar amounts, you know what people in your league bid. You can go look under the transaction to see the winning bid and all the other people who put in bids. There's a lot fewer people that put in bids than you might think.
It's you're 100% right. That's so true across all the leagues. I mean, even in my home league, I'm looking at it too. And Danny Amendola, after week 1, before he was even hurt, I was like, shoot, I guess they just not on a stat count. I guess they are just going to use him like that. I'm going to pick him up because he could be Julian Edelman light. And so I spent like $9 thinking, all right, somebody's going to spend. Nobody else spent more than $1. So there you go.
Yeah, people love a good $1 bid, 1 or 2. If you bid 3, that's like a money number to get some of these loser guys at the bottom. I put Thielen ahead of Diggs. I have Thielen at 30, Diggs at 32. And that's assuming that Sam Bradford does not play, which I don't think he is. If Sam Bradford does play against the Bucs, I would move both those guys up, and I'd probably have Diggs higher.
You know what's funny is that's actually how I ranked them with the assumption, because I do it kind of the same way as with the assumption that people are playing. As of today, I'm going with Bradford as playing, which I wouldn't be surprised if you're right and he doesn't. But that's why I have Diggs inside my top 20 and I have Thielen at 27.
Yeah, and I think that sounds about where I would have. I might have Thielen a little bit higher because I really like him for PPR formats. Just obviously the Diggs upside is way higher. I had him at 12. I had him at 12 last week before Bradford got declared out, and then I was like, "Oh, this isn't good," and I had to drop him way down. So that's why you have to pay attention to the rankings up to all the way through Sunday. I might be live for an hour, but I'm still updating as we go. So that entire 30 to 40 range: Cooper Kupp, Stefan Diggs, Marquise Lee, Larry Fitzgerald, Jermaine Kearse, Jamison Crowder, Marv Jones, Lucky Pierre Garcon, Richard Matthews, then T.Y. Hilton. Is there anyone from that part of the rankings or anyone lower that you feel like we should really talk about? Because there's one name I wanted to bring up for deeper leagues. Obviously, like in a 12-man league, you're not playing. But I think that Russell Shepard, with the absence of Greg Olsen, he played 30% of the snaps week 1, 50% of the snaps last week. I think against the Saints, he's only $3,500 on DraftKings, too, as like a flyer if you want to take one. But I play in a couple 16-man leagues, and like I went and picked him up, or I'm trying to pick him up. I hope no one's watching. But he's someone that I could start as like a flex play or a wide receiver 3 in that sort of league, because I think that he does have some upside.
I think that's very intriguing. That's actually not the one that I wanted to mention there, and there is one name, and it's Devin Funchess. And I know what the groans out there and the people that say, and they're like, "Oh, Devin Funchess."
I am at 43. I think he's a far superior option to Shepard. I figure that people will be all over Funchess.
You know what the surprising thing is? Like I said, you're getting a lot of groans. You're getting people who are just be like, "Oh, well, you know, we bought into Funchess last year, and Funchess is just this, and Funchess is just that." But the biggest thing about him, and the reason that was the one name I wanted to pull out from the deeper section at least, there's nobody off your list that I really cared that much about. But the Funchess factor is it's no Greg Olsen. And what have I always said about Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess is they're fast tight ends or oversized wide receivers. And so Ed Dixon, come on, it's going to be Funchess absorbing a lot of that. And if you saw after that Kelvin Benjamin got banged up and Greg Olsen left that game last week, all but one of his targets came after Olsen left that game, and that's where he did all of his work and got all that yardage.
Oh, can I make a prediction this week?
Sure.
Corey Davis is going to get injured more so than he is and be out a couple weeks.
You know what? You would be if they force him out there. You're right, because we actually had somebody on our show talking about the injuries and stuff like that, and they said when it comes to hamstrings, when you aggravate a hamstring, it's always worse than when you hurt it the first time. So the fact that he aggravated the hamstring last week, if they try to force him out there, it's always going to up the factor of him possibly getting hurt again.
Oh, what's the dude's name on Tennessee? Taylor? I always forget his first name.
Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah, he'd become like another 16-team leaguer to go throw in if you need a player.
Hey, he's an intriguing. You want to throw a dice roll on somebody in a tournament on DraftKings? There you go.
Yeah, especially if Davis is truly banged up. Although week 1, they said he was going to be on a snap count, and he wasn't.
He wasn't. And the thing is Eric Decker's pretty much done nothing so far.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Maybe he's just toast. Maybe this injury just did too much to him. I guess it's the injury optimism factor, like we've seen with Jamal Charles and all these other players in the past. I know the appeal has never been like Eric Decker's this huge yardage guy, because all he does is catch touchdowns, and that's kind of what we thought he would just be, is the touchdown guy. But he looks slow. He's not separating. Mariota's not even looking his way that much, and it especially hasn't been happening in the red zone. So I think Eric Decker, he's in that Brandon Marshall conversation where I don't want to cut him. I think it's stupid to cut him just for no reason. But if a J.J. Nelson or somebody like that's out there, I'll make the switch.
I don't know if you scrolled that far down in the rankings, but do you know where I have Brandon Marshall ranked this week?
No, I don't, because I never actually got your email.
Oh, the rankings are posted on DKPlaybook.com, Jake.
Oh, there you go. I didn't realize you had them up already.
Well, you see, I always have them out. I try to have them out either late Monday night or early Tuesday morning.
There you go. Yeah, I should know better. SEO master over here.
Yeah, well, I just like to have it out early so that people can consume them and then get upset about them. I'm not concerned about being right like you are.
Well, that's part of it too.
I just like making lists.
Where is Brandon Marshall?
79. Brandon Marshall stinks.
I don't have him that low.
Is there any possibility? Give me a scenario where you're starting Brandon Marshall. I would rather pick up. Actually, I have him one spot ahead of Juju Irwin-Shyster, but, I'd rather start Marquise Goodwin.
Oh, we're not going that far. Like I said, I have him still barely inside the top 50.
I'd rather start Alex Erickson.
Oh, stop.
I would. Brandon Marshall is awful, and that team is awful, and he doesn't seem interested in playing.
Here's what it comes down to.
That he sucks. Yeah, you're right, Pat. He's terrible. Don't play him.
I will tell. No, you asked me give me the scenario where he would possibly play.
Okay.
I'll give you the scenario. Is the fact if Odell Beckham is practicing before Friday and it's not limited and he's 100%, because to be honest, as bad as Eli looks, as bad as Ben McAdoo's play calling is, where he's like, oh, it's 3rd and 7, screw that, we're not even going to try for the first down, we're not good enough for that. Despite how terrible this offense is, we still have yet to see 100% Odell Beckham and Brandon Marshall together on the field playing in a full game. So if Odell Beckham's out there and Marshall can be what he came in to be, and that's just the number 2 who shows up in the red zone and makes the catches where he doesn't have to jump over people, and he can just use his big body. And he dropped the one last week, but I just think that's when I would use him, and he would still only be like a wide receiver 5.
I think with the guy that you just described, the Giants are going to use Evan Ingram in that role.
Hey, you know what? He looked good last week, but that was a perfect design play call. Those linebackers bit so hard. I'm not banking on that every single week.
I'm not banking on it either, but it seems like if there's one guy in that offense who's not Beckham that Eli trusts, it seems to be Ingram right now.
And Shepard too.
Yeah.
No, I'm not playing him in fantasy at all, because when all 3 of them are out there. But I think that if Odell Beckham were ever out again, that's the one guy he looked. You saw it in week 1. He looked to Shepard a hell of a lot more than he looked to Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall didn't get his catch till the end of the game.
Do you have a problem with Jermaine Kearse at 35?
No, that's why we kind of went right over top of him.
Okay.
I have him a little bit lower. I have him at 44, so that's not a huge difference. But the fact is, the guy had 1 week with this team, and he's already clearly the number 1, and Josh McCown is going his way plenty, so I don't have a big problem with it. If you're right and he's top 35, it wouldn't surprise me at all this week.
Yeah, I think that I know he's going to be a very popular DraftKings play this week, and I would have problems eating the chalk with Jermaine Kearse. I would just much rather play Rashard Higgins for $4,000 because I think that PPR floor is higher.
Oh, I completely agree with you on that. And actually, Jermaine Kearse is the number 5 wide receiver through 2 weeks. Think about that.
Yeah, it's nuts. That shouldn't even be a real stat. My feeling tells me that that's not real, and I only make decisions based off my feelings.
And you mean like Alex Smith being the number 3 quarterback so far?
I thought he was number 1.
No, he's Trevor Simeon's number 1 because he's got 6 touchdowns. He's got 2 back-to-back. It's Simeon, Wentz, Alex Smith is 3rd.
All right, well, let's get into the quarterbacks then. Number 1, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan, Breeze, Brady, Stafford, Cam Newton, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson is the top 10. Someone was getting mad at me. He was like, how dare you rank Aaron Rodgers at number 1? It's just like, who cares? If you own one of these like top 6 guys, that's who you're playing. Like, do you really have Rodgers and Brady on your team? Is that a decision you need to make?
You know what? The funny thing is, I actually had a tweet last week where somebody was like, why do you have Julio Jones ahead of Antonio Brown? I didn't even answer. Like, why even respond to that? I don't even waste my Twitter fingers typing out a response to that. Yeah, if you have Aaron Rodgers, if you have Matt Ryan, you have Drew Brees, Tom Brady, first of all, don't even bother owning a second quarterback. Like, I'm tired of getting phone calls on our radio show and saying, I have Drew Brees. You think I should sit him for Kirk Cousins this week because the Raiders' defense? Like, stop. If you have Drew Brees, one quarterback, you start him every damn week and stop with the nonsense.
Yeah, it'll just save you a lot of headaches, if nothing else.
Exactly. Like, I had a buddy last year. This is a perfect example. I had a buddy last year who drafted Drew Brees. He got Matt Ryan for free, which you can't. I'm not faulting him for that. But all he did for the rest of the season, because he refused to trade one of them, was deal with the headache of, do I start Brees or Matt Ryan this week? And more often than not, he ends up making the wrong decision and benching the guy who goes for 5 extra points versus the other one.
You limit the amount of mistakes that you can make. Like, you have Drew Brees, you're going to be fine. If you do fall into a situation where you pick someone up and they're awesome as well, like Stafford, who I have ranked at number 5, is someone you could theoretically have with one of these top guys. Now, It's a good situation to be in, but play the top guy.
Right, because what's going to piss you off more? The fact that if Drew Brees goes out and only throws for 250 and 2 touchdowns, or you benched him and you watch him go off for 350 and 4.
Yeah, or just trade Drew Brees if you feel like good about Matt Stafford.
There you go.
And it's a good matchup for Matt Stafford. I like him a lot this week. So
I love him.
The 11 to 20 goes Rivers, Mariota, Carson, Pennsylvania, Ben Roethlisberger, Deshaun Kaiser at number 15 for me. I like this matchup against the Colts. Andy Dalton, Trevor Siemian, Smokin' Jay, Famous Jameis, and Alex Smith at number 20. Weirdly enough, like, all the good quarterbacks and even some of like the mid-range quarterbacks all have the good matchups this week, and all the crappy quarterbacks have bad matchups.
Yeah, I was looking at the same list, but did you not realize Carson Wentz was the number 2 quarterback so far?
No, I didn't. And Simeon's number 1, apparently. Someone had told me that. Maybe it
Oh,
was
you should probably put both of them inside the top 5.
I should. Number 1, Trevor Simeon. Listen, I think Trevor Simeon's a very good stream this week, but again, I am pensive because I think the Bills' defense might be all right.
I'm with you as well. Let's get through a few more games before we can trust him. I've been one of the more complimentary guys. I just said it on this very show with you about his play so far earlier when I was talking about that he's played very smart. Talked about it last week, and he's taking what's given to him. But at the same time, he doesn't have 500 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns, and that touchdown to attempt ratio right now is not going to continue.
So for streamers, the guy that I like the best, depending on your league size, obviously, is Kaiser. I just think Kaiser's ability to score fantasy points against a crappy defense like the Colts is going to be pretty good.
I don't mind that at all. I actually have him at 15. Did you say 15? Because that's where I have him.
Yeah, I have him exactly at number 15.
So there you go. The other one I like is the one that you don't. I like Carson Palmer as a streamer because a lot of people have given up on him already.
I did this move last week. Didn't work out.
He threw for 300 yards and a touchdown last week.
That's fine. It's not what I wanted. I want better at quarterback.
And for your love of J.J. Nelson, he almost had a second touchdown.
Almost not cutting it.
Hey, I'm not going to complain about 3. With the fact that Dak Prescott was a QB1 last week, I'm not going to complain about 300 yards and a touchdown these days.
Dak Prescott at number 9. I know he's dealing with the ankle, but I think he is is super going to be low-owned DraftKings quarterback this week. And he can play him by himself, which is the nice part.
To go back to your point earlier, as much as people should have been and have been afraid of the Arizona defense, so far it's not looking like one to be afraid of, except at least for tight ends. That's the one area you still need to be legitimately concerned.
Just like the Packers, weirdly enough. Week 1, they held Jimmy Graham to like 3 for 15, and last week, Hooperton ended up 2 for 7 or something.
Yeah, they've been really good, and they've been good against the run, and although last week got a little bit exposed at times.
So no Jared Goff for you?
Good God, I'm so happy he had it back. I hate to say that about the guy, but I'm just so happy that we saw that, you know what, week 1 wasn't real. It's just the fact that fire up whoever's playing the Colts.
Yeah, Deshaun Kaiser, here we go.
Yep, there you go.
The time is now for the Kaiser. And then you can cut him or trade him or do whatever because he's not very good.
Exactly.
He loves throwing. He does like throwing picks, though.
Hey, streaming defenses.
Hey, you could do it. We'll get to that in a second. Tight ends. This is going to be a tough one this week because there's a lot of uncertainty. So Olsen's out, 6 to 8. They actually put him on IR, but he can come back at some point. He's going to get surgery, so don't worry about him for the time being. Tyler Eifert, I don't think is going to play. I didn't put him in the rankings. Obviously, if he does play, I don't like him because I just mentioned how good the Packers have been against tight ends. Gronk, right. I have in. Jordan Reed, I have in. Jimmy Graham, I have in. Gresham, Vance McDonald, and Kittle-Me Timbers with his hip problem I have in the rankings right now. So just to clarify that for people who want to know who's in and who's out. So number 1, Travis Kelce. Number 2, banged up Gronk. Number 3, Ertz, Reed, Delaney Walker, Jimmy Graham, Eric Ebron, Kobe Fleener, Ben Watson, and Martellus Bennett. I've been wrong about a lot of things this year, as I am most of the time. Ben Watson, currently not one of them.
Hey, here's the fact that we always knew. You throw to the tight end when you're in Baltimore, and the tight end has a lot of value in Baltimore. That's just what it's been year after year. We saw Dennis Pittett last year. I will say I was right and wrong at the same time. I was right about there was going to be value here. I didn't think it was going to be Ben Watson because at his age, coming off an Achilles injury, I wasn't expecting a lot. But he looks fine. He looks 100%. So you were 100% right, and I am on full board with Ben Watson, who, by the way, before today was available in, just 99% of Yahoo leagues.
Oh, excellent. Although Yahoo has weird diminishing, the split is really weird this year because I've been writing my waiver wire column between, Yahoo, ESPN, and CBS. Everyone's just owned on CBS. It's like baseball.
Right.
I don't play on CBS because I find it infuriating to play on. So, Buck Allen was only owned in 7% of ESPN leagues.
Yeah, see, that's why I use Yahoo, because it's kind of the middle ground, I feel. You get a little bit more, you don't get the CBS, as you said, because everybody's so highly involved and owned in every single league over there. ESPN is the complete opposite. Like you just mentioned, the percentage is, way too low. Because I think a lot of people draft and just don't pay attention, or they're just going with the default setup of 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and no flex and a non-PPR, which means everybody's out there. So I generally use Yahoo, but I do feel like you said, I feel like it's a little bit, it's not as good as it was last year with those percentages.
Number 11, Jack Doyle, who looks pretty comfortable with Jacoby Brissett, so I'm on board with Doyle.
Well, it's not just Brissett. It's the fact, I sorry to cut you off on this one, but it's the fact that Jack Doyle doesn't have Eric Swoop. This is what I said before. Again, to go back to on target, sorry when I say this is what I said before, but what I'm talking about is we looked at the past years, and it was Kobe Fleener owners were like, damn it, Dwayne Allen. And then Dwayne Allen's were like, damn it, Jack Doyle. And then we all expected it to be, damn it, Eric Swoop, but now he's on the IR, so all there is Jack Doyle. There's no more 2 tight ends anymore.
So Doyle is at number 11, Austin Hooper 12, Evan Ingram 13, Witten 14, Hunter Henry, or Henri as we call him in Quebec, at number 15, Kyle Rudolph, Zach Miller, Charles Clay, and Austin Safarian-Jenkins back from suspension at 19. Then Tony Yates, he's at number 20. So I guess the big one that people are going to be all over me for is Jason Witten this low. I just don't think he can keep this going. Week 1, he always kills the Giants. I was willing to come to terms with that. Week 2, they got down by so much, which was so unexpected that they had to use him a lot. Now, this time around, yes, Peterson's going to be on Dez Bryant, and Honey Badger could shut down Cole Beasley, and Jason Witten might be free to roam around. I don't see it happening 3 weeks in a row. Almost sort of like the Larry Fitzgerald thing that we talked about. I'm willing to be wrong on this one.
Well, I don't think you will be wrong on this one, because the biggest thing about it is that no tight ends do anything against the Cardinals. And that goes back to last year as well, where not a single tight end had more than 53 receiving yards, and they barely gave up any touchdowns. And that's continuing again this year. That's the one thing. This whole team hasn't looked great so far. Week 1, Golden Tate abused them, just ran all over Tyrann Mathieu, and I don't know why they didn't bring Peterson over, but they really haven't stopped anybody for all these pieces and how scary they're supposed to be. But the one thing they still do is stop the tight end. I'm with you. I do not expect Jason Witten to be inside my top 15, or he's not inside my top 15. I don't expect him to be there.
The only other guy was Austin Hooper. I put it number 12, big week 1, not so much week 2. But just after watching the way that the tight ends on the Giants were able to maneuver against the Lions week 1, I think that he could be in for a decent spot here.
Well, if you look at what the Detroit Lions already lost to start the season and what they've been dealing with, and they have problems at the linebacker position. Like I said, I joked about the fact of how hard that they bit on that one play to Evan Ingram, but the linebackers just struggle. This is actually very similar to the Giants. The linebackers just struggle to cover. I don't have a problem with that one. And I actually thought you were going to bring up Austin Safarian-Jenkins, but I have a problem with side of top 20 because Josh McCown loves this tight end.
Yeah, that's why he's there.
Yep. But did you know he hasn't played yet?
He hasn't played yet. Do you also know he has a drinking problem?
Well, not anymore.
Yeah,
apparently he's all clean and sober.
Yeah, look how well it's turning out for Steve Sarkisian.
True.
Just go through your sobriety, do your 12 steps, go to rehab, come back, and you're going to be awesome. Hopefully it works out for us and Safarian-Jenkins as well. Streaming D's, let's get to them. Number 1 on the list, I have Baltimore at number 1, and they're still widely available, which I was stunned by. Over in London against Jacksonville, just stream against Jacksonville, stream against the Jets, you're going to be fine. So Ravens, Rams, Broncos, Steelers, Patriots, Dolphins, Bucks, Seahawks, Chiefs, and Jacksonville are my top 10. The ones just missing out, Philadelphia against Eli looks kind of spicy. The Vikings up against Jameis. Tennessee hosting Seattle. They've looked inept so far. The Packers just up against Dalton. I expect them to rebound a little bit, but it's still a good opportunity to play people against Andy Dalton. Is there any defense that you particularly like, whether they're too low on this list, too high on this list, or not mentioned on this list?
No, I was going through my rankings, and you're almost within a spot or two of everybody that you ran through. The top 4 are the exact same top 4, except I have the Broncos and Steelers flipped. I mean, I was going through and all right, he's just naming everybody I have. The only one that I have higher than you significantly is the Packers, and that is because, despite the fact that I do think A.J. Green bounces back and have him as my top 3, it's still the fact that I think we could get at least a turnover or 2 from Dalton. The one good thing about the Packers, similar to the Eagles from last year, is while they can give up plenty of points, when they get the turnovers, a lot of those times they find a way to get into either the end zone or get a few extra on top of that. So I think I have the Packers inside my top 10, but they're at number 9.
Yeah, I could see using the Packers that highly. When you kind of mentioned, I don't really care about how many points teams score on my opposing defense as long as they throw the ball a lot against them. That's all I really want. That leads to more pressures, more sacks, more fumbles, more turnovers, and hopefully more touchdowns. Just the amount of volume that you can get in a passing attack, the more likely it is to throw an interception. Just play the volume that way. It's a weird thing to think about, but that's how you should do it. I just don't. I know the Bengals' offensive line is terrible and they haven't stopped anyone. I just don't know if the Packers are going to be able to generate any pass rush because they don't.
No, that's true. And I got to tell you, the one that I would say might be a little bit of fun. And like I said, not that I really want to start him as seasonal, but again, fun for the opportunity. I know Jacoby Brissett looked nice last week, but Cleveland Browns might be a fun little sneaky play because they do have some pieces on that defense.
I got them at number 16. I think they're playable. I don't think that they're a great start, though.
No, they're just a fun one. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out of this game with 2 turnovers, 3 turnovers, and actually scored one.
All right. Jake Ciely. Follow him on Twitter at AllInKid and check him out everywhere where the internet is available. Jake, tell everyone where you're at.
RotoExperts.com, the Fantasy Sports Network, Fantasy Radio, 9 to 11, Monday through Friday, and 4 to 6 in the afternoon. That's the award-winning show, the only one you should listen to. And then again, Sunday morning from 11 to noon. So, as you said, every freaking... Oh, yeah, by the way, I was also with the Fantasy Footballers this year for some DFS content.
Oh, sweet. I love the Fantasy Footballers. They're my guys.
Yeah, great dudes.
Well, you're doing the show with... You're doing a similar show that we're doing right now with, like, a rankings debate, but you're doing it with Meanie, right?
Yep, rankings reveal. I'm sorry, we got the reverse order, and we break it down going all the way up to 1, kind of like NCAA tournament style.
See, on the Pat Mayo experience, no gimmicks needed. We're like the Steve Carino of shows.
Yeah, we're the Hall of Famers, and I have to figure out something just to be a little bit different, so I'm not just like, hey, this is my version of it.
Also, tell Meanie to get over Kenny Golladay, all right? Him and I run a team together, and just like he's like, oh, we got to play Kenny Golladay. It's like, no, we don't. We don't have to play this guy every week.
I will let him know that tomorrow, not only on the ranking show, but I'll let him know on the show in the afternoon as well.
Sneak it up on him, because we needed 6 yards from Golladay to beat Brad Evans in legal leagues, and he ended up with 8, so it worked out. But,
that's the league. Wait, that's the league that he's talking about is the legal leagues, because he complained about you saying that you forced him to draft Josh Gordon.
Yeah, he did. We picked Josh Gordon like the 53rd round or something.
No, I'm just saying that's funny, because now I'm definitely going to come back because he complained about that today.
Listen, it was a nice move getting Golladay. That's fine. But we got to stop treating him like he's like our receiver 1. He's just real hyped on Golladay.
I'll definitely let him know tomorrow, and I'll tell him that he's still wrong about Josh Gordon.
All right. Why? You think he's wrong about Josh Gordon?
Oh, no, I just think he's wrong that he's not worth a roster spot in league leagues.
Yeah, listen, we can carry him through, and we have to pay the penalty of keeping him in the 51st round next year. I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What's the big deal there?
Yeah, we don't need to play the guy. Hey, we had Giolito on our bench all year, and then he actually came up.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. When you're in a league that deep and you're looking to the future in a carryover league, what's the worst? What's better than picking up Josh Gordon? What else are you going to put on your bench at that point?
Yeah, and until we need the roster spot, he's going to linger there. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow all the content there. For the audio versions, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Audio Boom under the Pat Mayo Experience. And for the full video experience, YouTube, DraftKings YouTube page, everything on demand, uncut, as always, up there. And if you want to check out the updated rankings and everything that goes along with it, go to dkplaybook.com. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck this week. I'll see you next time.